And I believe the last episode, because we will be taking a break just for a little bit while we focus on some other training, and then we will be bringing the show back in the fall. But I want to welcome you for an action-packed episode number 4. If you're new and you're joining me for the first time, then I want to welcome you and say hello. Now, I've got people coming in from a couple of different places. So you could be joining from our More Than a Wheelin' Facebook page. You could be joining from the Remote Life Reinvention group, and there are quite a few new people in that group. So I want to welcome you and say hello. And maybe you're joining from YouTube, although I don't think too many people have found us on YouTube yet. Wherever you're coming in from today, I want to welcome you and say thank you for joining me. Drop a hello in the chat so they know that you're here and you can hear me, and we're all good to go for today's training. Now, if you've been following along with these episodes, and you already know that I have been training from the new book called The Remote Life Reinvention Guide, the top 10 questions and answers about how to reinvent yourself with remote work or business. I put a little graphic of it up for you to see, and here it is in real life, although the lighting's pretty bad. And I've been training directly from this book. If you're enjoying this training, if you're getting a lot out of these videos and you want to dig deeper, then be sure to download the guide. I'm going to give you a link at the end where you can sign up for the guide and some other training that I'll be talking about at the very end. So, hey, Adam, good to see you. Adam West, isn't that cool? All right, so today what I'm going to be doing is a couple of different things. Number one, I'm going to talk about specifically question number 10 in the Remote Life Reinvention Guide, which is all about how long before you can actually make money if you start a remote business. Now, I want to take you back to the very beginning episode where I started with question 1, and then I've been going all the way up to question 10. I started with more traditional remote work, and now I'm built up all the way to if you were to start your own business, because I tend to talk to 2 types of audiences. One type of audience, which might be you, are the folks who are looking more for traditional work where you're working for someone else or you're working in for an employer, but it just happens to be remotely. And I also get a lot of questions from people who are really more into starting something, whether that's freelancing or maybe even your own full-on remote business that you're running 100% online like myself. And so the last episode, I really dug deeper into the business side of things. And today I'm going to finish with the business side of things. And then I'm going to tell you about a really cool masterclass that I'm doing next week, where I will be doing an entire hour plus of deep dive into 4 key things you need to know to reinvent yourself remotely. So if you're following along, I'm on page 13 of the guide. Question number 10, how long before I make money with my remote business? Well, let me tell you that a lot of people make a mistake when they venture into starting a remote business. The mistake is that they wait to charge any money. Now, there are a couple of reasons for this. One reason is a lot of people starting off feel like they're very new. And because they're so new, they feel like they shouldn't charge money or a lot of money. They reduce their rates, or they might charge no money at all. And the reason that a lot of people do that, and I've been guilty of this too, is because there is a bit of a lack of value in understanding your own value and misplacing your value, feeling like, well, because I'm new and I'm not proven and I don't have a lot of clients yet, that for some reason what you have to offer doesn't have enough value. And I really want to help you in your mindset around that and change your thinking that just because you're new to something, that in no way has anything to do with the value that you produce for someone. In fact, in a lot of ways, we make the mistake of tying how we feel about ourselves to the product or service that we deliver. And we really have to detach the two. It really has nothing to do with how you feel about yourself. What you should be charging has everything to do with the value you deliver to a client or a customer. So that's what I want to start with today, is really reconnecting you with the value of what you have to offer and not thinking about it through the lens of, oh, I'm new, I'm untested, I'm unproven. I really want to move you away from that, which brings me to this point of you can start charging for your new business, whatever it is, whether it's a service or product, on day one. It's really up to you. You have to really understand the service or the value of what you're delivering to people. And I want you to charge appropriately. So this brings me to the second mistake that people make, which is if they are going to charge, they charge too little. They're not charging enough money. And again, that comes back to people feeling like what they have isn't good enough, or maybe they don't have enough case studies, or perhaps they need to get more clients. And so the way that they do that is by reducing their rates. I don't believe in this. I don't believe that you should reduce your rates necessarily. Now, I'm not telling you you shouldn't do that. I am telling you that don't believe that you have to start that way. Don't make the mistake that somehow the only way you can make money in a new business is to somehow reduce your rates to barely nothing just to get started. It's sometimes more difficult when you do it that way because it's very hard to then raise your prices. So again, this all boils down to really understanding the value that you deliver and then charging accordingly. Hey, I see some people joining, although I can't see names, which is kind of a bummer. I see Facebook user. I see, hi, Camille. Hi, Camille. Hello. If you're joining me, drop something in the chat. Don't forget, I do answer questions live. So if you have any questions today about remote work or remote business, put them in the chat and I am happy to answer them for you. And again, if you're following along, I'm on page 13, in the Remote Life Reinvention Guide that I'm showing you. So right now I'm talking about what to charge and how soon you can actually make money on your business. Again, the bottom line is you can make money on day one if you understand the value that you deliver and if you can talk about that value in the way that people understand. Now, here's where it can get tricky. Sometimes you don't know. You don't know what your own value is because you are so new to this. Now, this is an area of specialty for me. I'm really good at understanding the value of something that someone delivers. And I can tell you 9 out of 10 times people are undercharging. And it breaks my heart when people undercharge, of course, because it means that you're discounting your value or you're diminishing the value that you provide to other people. And I'm on a mission to help people avoid that because I see it happen way, way too much. Hello, Brenda. Good to see you. Hello, Kelly Ann. So good to see you attending from Atlanta. Love that. I bet it's very hot where you are. So what I'm just talking about for those of you who just joined is I'm talking about value and really understanding the value that you deliver to people so that you can start charging what you're worth and on day one. I know that's kind of for some people, it's sort of a shocking thing to think about that, wow, I can actually just put prices out on day one and even those prices could be higher than I think. Of course, we always devalue ourselves. We always discount ourselves. It's human nature. But I'm here to tell you that you can stop doing that. You can put prices right away on wherever you're marketing your services. And believe it or not, people will pay for their services if you're able to tell them why you are delivering the value you're delivering. That's where people get a little caught up. Kimberly says, you are so awesome and are so supportive and helpful. Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly. I'm so glad that you feel that way. I can't do that without people joining me and asking questions and telling me their stories. So thank you for being here. Catherine says, hi, Kathy from Philly, first visit, no manual yet. No problem. Welcome, Catherine. It's so good to have you here. I'm going to put a link in at the end of my live today, and you can go there and grab the guide if you want it. So no problem. What I'm doing is I'm doing these live videos every week, and they really match the guide. So again, that way, if you're more of a video person, you can get it through video. If you're more of I like to read things like me, I like to read things, then I've got that option for you as well. Vicky's here. Hey, hi from Alamosa. Is that Colorado? I remember being in Alamosa, but I don't remember what state I was in. Isn't that funny? That's what happens when you travel full time. Well, thank you all for joining me. It's so good to see you here. If you've got any questions about remote work or business, drop them in the chat. But for right now, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing next week. Next week, I'm hosting a very special masterclass. It's called Remote Life Reinvention, and it's all about how to reinvent yourself with remote work or remote business to have income forever. So it's a deeper dive than the manual that I just talked about, and even these videos. I've been doing these videos every week now for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and they're about 20 minutes long. And next week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive much deeper into 4 specific things that you've got to do today if you want to set yourself up for a remote future. And if you haven't guessed, which I think all of you have, the remote future is here. Now, I knew this was coming, but I figured it was going to be in another 4 or 5 years before really remote work and remote business started ramping up. I could have never predicted a pandemic. And that pandemic has, of course, accelerated all of this so much faster. And so what I'm trying to do is get the information that I had planned into your hands much sooner. So here's the link, morethanawheelin.com, Remote Life Masterclass. You can go there. You can sign up if you haven't yet. I know so many of you already have. You can sign up for free. We'll be spending a good hour plus together going over some very critical information to help you get set up for the remote future. All right, let me go back to the chat and see what questions might be coming in. Yeah, Southern Colorado. I'm so glad I got that right. By the way, some of you can't see, I'm wearing a new shirt today. It's got these nice lemons all over them. I realized that I have been wearing like the same 3 shirts for every video because my wardrobe is quite limited. When you live in an RV for as long as I have, almost 4 years, and you try to keep your budget and your clothing options rather minimal, I started to look at my clothes and I thought, these are getting a little threadbare. So I actually bought some new things the other day, including this cool new lemon shirt, if you can see it. All right, Facebook user says, I'm registered. I don't know why I can't see your name. That's so odd to me. This happens every now and again when I use these third-party platforms where I can't see people's names. But good for you. I'm so happy you registered. I can't wait to connect with you. And in the meantime, if you're in the Remote Life Reinvention group, you can start asking questions now. I've been hanging out in there. I've been talking to people, answering all kinds of questions about remote work and remote business. So don't hesitate. Missy says, hello, Missy. It's so good to see you here. So why don't I do this? The other thing I want to do, since I'm not getting a ton of questions right now, and that happens. Sometimes I get questions, sometimes I don't get questions. It's all good. I want to walk you through at the very back of the guide on page 15. I haven't talked about this yet. I actually have some exercises that are really, really good. And if you haven't done them yet, I encourage you to. Because, oh, it's Lorna. Okay, thank you for telling me your name. I appreciate that. Now, in the back of the Remote Life Reinvention Guide, I have some activities for you to do. And these activities are meant to lock in your learning from the guide as well as this video series. And so some of the questions are things like, what does your remote future look like? List some skills that you have. And I talk about, you don't need to worry if your skills are good for remote jobs. Just write them down for right now, because I'm going to go through an activity next week in the masterclass that's going to help you understand how to use the skills you already have and transfer them into a remote role, whether that's going to be a remote job or even a remote business. So I get you started on that in this guide. I also talk about some of the technology that you'll use today. This is another thing where I see people really underestimating their skills. A lot of people feel like they don't know enough technology to work online or work remotely. But I'm here to tell you, you have a lot more technology skills than you realize. So you need to list them out in this guide. You're going to be so blown away when you see the things listed out, and you'll write down so many more things that you know, online tools that you know that you can transition into a remote role. So let me do this really quickly. Oh, here is another graphic in the upper right-hand corner. It's so tiny, you probably can't even see it. But this is what it looks like when you go to the link I told you about. Let me put that link up again. Look at how good I'm getting at learning my way around this technology. So when you go to this link, you're going to see this little graphic here, and that's how you can sign up for the masterclass if you haven't yet. Now I talk about in the guide on page 16, if you're following along with my activities here, I talk about my 77-year-old father who learned how to work online. And I talk about what surprises you about that story? Or what are some things that inspire you about that story? I get really inspired when I talk about my dad learning how to go online. Here's the other thing I haven't told you, and I might try to interview her, is my aunt. My aunt is an acting teacher, traditional, went to a studio, taught actors in real life. And she told me last week she followed some of my methodologies and started a whole virtual acting class. And she's got students and she's having the best time. And I just love it when my family members, especially the ones who are a little bit older than me, are willing to just go for it and figure out how to do these things. And yes, I help them, but boy, they really are quite independent and very motivated. So kudos to them. All right, let me go back to the chat and see if there are any other questions coming in. All right, here we go. We've got some questions about platforms. I love this. Do you recommend a platform like Teachable for your online course? So unfortunately, Facebook user, I can't see your name. I'd love to know who you are. It sounds like you're interested in doing online courses like me. So let me get a little specific and tell you, first of all, for all of you here who might be interested in building online courses or doing some remote training and teaching, that is a remote business. So you're leaning all in on doing a remote business if you're thinking about that. And if you are, I'm excited for you because that's what I do and I love it. So Teachable as a platform is a very great way to get started. It's not the only one. It's what I've started with. It's what a lot of people start with. It's generally lower costs than some of the other platforms out there, and it does a nice job. There are some limitations, just like every platform, but there's nothing wrong with it. And I think it's a great way to start if you're just starting out. So I'm not going to like all in recommend it because I don't know your situation. And sometimes these things are very situational. Okay, another question came in. I have recently started out on iService, a free remote job portal. Wanted to discuss a few things with you if you would allow. Please let me know your thoughts. Sure, ask away. Tell me your questions. I'm happy to ask. I'm happy to answer them. That's what I'm doing at the end of these trainings as I dig into your questions. So yes, please let me know. Until you ask that question, I'll go back into the guide and tell you some of the other activities I have for you. So again, pulling up the link for the masterclass registration. Okay, so the next activity is me asking you in this booklet if you have a remote work resume. And you'll know if you have a remote work resume if you go back and watch, I think it's episode 2 of this video, or you look in the Remote Life Reinvention Guide where I talk about what a remote work resume is. And so I ask you if you have one, and then I ask you what's missing. Because if you have anything missing on your resume, then you don't have a remote work resume. And I tell you exactly how to get one in the guide, totally free. And I have some amazing free resources on how to do that. So if you're a real independent person and you want to go figure that out on your own, all of my free resources are going to help you do that. So again, in the guide, I walk you through that. Next, I talk about 3 places you can think of to find remote work. And here we have an example right here from someone who said they just started off on iService.com. So that's one place you can go. There are infinite places to go. And again, in the guide, I've got a link to some of the top remote job sites. And so I want you to write down 3 because it's so easy to get overwhelmed when there are infinite number of places to look. So really, I walk you through an activity to think about what are the top 3 ones that really appeal to you based on what you want to do related to remote work. Okay, I see a question from Kelly Ann. How do we determine the cross-functionality of the website, blog, social media, and email platforms, and how to utilize them together? Holy cow, Kelly, that is quite a packed question. So again, with Kelly's question, I believe that what you're describing is more like along the lines of a remote business, not just a remote job. So Kelly, it's a big question you're asking. It would take longer than my few minutes, but let me say this. Let me try to make this as simple as possible. It always comes back to what do you want to do and how do you want to generate revenue? Those questions, those 2 questions will drive how many of these other things you need to do. For example, I got started with a blog, right? I got started with an RV travel blog. Now, I just did that because everyone said, start a blog, Camille, start a blog. And I just, okay, I'll start a blog. I didn't know any better. In hindsight, had I spent more time thinking about what I wanted to do and how I wanted to generate revenue, I might have never started that blog, Kelly. I might have done something completely differently. And so it's not so much about the cross functionality of websites and blogs and social media and email platforms. It's about what do you want to do? What service or product do you want to deliver? And then we align all of those things, or really just a few of those things, to really maximize how you're going to make your income. So let's take, for example, blogging, because you asked about blogging. And let's say that's how you want to make your money, is with blogging. Well, then sure, it makes sense to start a blog. It makes sense to then start an email list. And then it makes sense to pick one or maybe two social media channels. And that's it. Just start small, start lean. I call it launch it lean, actually, and I talk about that in the guide. Start very lean, Kellyanne, so you don't have to worry about all the functionality and all the integrations of all of these tools. The more complex you get, sometimes doesn't mean more money or more reach. Sometimes it just means more headache. So I really just want you to think more about, what do you want to do? How do you want to earn your income? And then we can talk later about, so what are the right tools for you to hit those goals? I hope that helps you. All right, I see another question coming in. This comes from Sally Collins. Hey, Sally, good to see you. Greetings and thanks. Do you have suggestions for apps and tools to manage contacts and connections in our personal networks? Again, this is similar to Kellyanne's question, Sally. It really depends on what you want to do and what kind of a network you want to build. Are you building a network of clients? Are you building a network of customers to sell things to? Are you building a network of blog followers? It really boils down to, what do you want to do to actually generate your revenue? And then again, what are the right tools? This could really vary. This could vary from anything like using LinkedIn for your networks. This could vary from using an email service provider like I do to stay in contact with people. This could be as simple as using something like Instagram just to stay connected with people. So, let me back up and say, all of these different tools, a lot of people will get hung up on, oh, what tools do I need? And how do I use them? And don't I need this? It's not so much about the tools. It really boils down to, what is it that you want to do? How do you see yourself actually making money? And then what's the right tool to support that? It's sort of like, if I had an analogy of building a house, which I've never done, but I'm guessing, you don't just grab a hammer to put a screw in a wall, right? You can have all the tools you want, but if you don't have a screwdriver, you're not going to get a screw in a wall. So you have to figure out, what is the job and what is the tool for the job. I cannot believe I just used a construction metaphor when I've never done construction, although I have put things up like pictures, and I know my way around a couple tools. Let me say that. All right, I'm not seeing any other questions, so let me just go back and remind you, if you haven't yet, you can still sign up for the Remote Life Masterclass taking place next Tuesday and Wednesday. It's free. If you don't know me, let me say this. People will tell you I deliver tons of value for free. That is my MO. I'm all about giving away as much high value, free content as possible, and that is exactly what you're going to get in the masterclass. So sign up if you haven't. You will love it. If you're loving these videos, if you're loving the Remote Life Reinvention book, then you will love the masterclass even more. I can pretty much guarantee it. All right, let me check the chat one more time just to see. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, but as always, when I sign off of these, if you're catching the replay, you can drop a question in the replay chat, and I will come back and answer you later. And this is it for this season of the Remote Life Reinvention Show. We've covered about 5 different episodes. I know I said episode 4 today, but that's because my first episode was a trial run. I will be bringing this back in the fall though, so I'm not going away forever. I'm just taking a little bit of a break so I can focus on the masterclasses that I'm doing next week. Kellyanne, you're very welcome. She says, thank you so much. I love it. Let's see. Oh, Facebook user says we want to expand. Oh, I see. I see what this is. We want to expand more companies posting jobs on the portal. Is someone like you to collaborate with? Okay, I see you. You're someone who promotes this portal. Cool. Yeah, email me. I'm interested. I always want to find good portals and good companies to put in front of people inside a remote work school or people in my free groups. I always want really great jobs and really great connections with companies who hire. So I think this is Lorna. I'm not sure if I'm going back. I'm probably getting the names wrong because it just says Facebook user. But yeah, contact me, email me, message me on Facebook. I'd love to talk to you, whoever it is you are, mystery Facebook user. All right, thank you so much for joining me this week. Again, one more time, you can sign up for the Remote Life Masterclass, and I will see you there next week. Have a great rest of your week.